everyone. This video is part 3 of my Stan Lee and Jack Kirby Fantastic Four coverage. This video will cover issues 21 through 30 of the Fantastic Four. So in this volume, we're going to have various storylines. One of them is involving a character called the Hate Monger, who is a political figure that is stoking hatred and fear of immigrants, a problem in the 1960s as well as today. And it's kind of a twist ending on the identity of the Hate Monger. We're going to have Mole Man back into the story. Sue Storm is going to get a whole bunch of new powers. Dr. Doom is going to strike again. We're going to have a character called the Infant Terrible. He's like a little baby alien with reality warping powers, and he's going to be very difficult to stop. We're going to have a two-parter involving the Hulk fighting the Thing, and the Avengers are going to get in on the mix, so that one is exciting. We're going to have Namor coming back into the story. He's going to kidnap Sue and try to force her to love him, so this is a big issue that will resolve a lot of things between the love triangle storyline between Sue, Reed, and Namor, so that's a good one. We're going to have the first meeting of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. We're going to have the return of the Red Ghost and his Super Apes. And also, I found on the internet that the writer of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, actually wrote into the letters column of Fantastic Four about this issue, and I thought it was a really fun read, so I'm going to go through that as well. And the last issue, we're going to be introduced to the villain Diablo, who is a pretty bad villain. All right, let's dive into it. Volume 3 of Fantastic Four, Marvel Masterworks. Fantastic Four Marvel Masterworks Volume 3, written by Stan Lee, art by Jack Kirby. This volume covers issues 21 through 30. Fantastic Four issue 21, The Hate Monger. The Fantastic Four are in the Baxter Building, each partaking in their own activities. Reed Richards is doing some sort of scientific experiment, using something called a tide scope to measure the tides in his planetarium room. He notices something seems off with the tides. Johnny Storm is throwing flame darts at a picture of Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Sue Storm is trying on different wigs, and the Thing is training on his punching bag. The Fantastic Four then read in the newspaper that some sort of person calling himself the Hate Monger is causing a mob to riot in the city. The Fantastic Four go to check out this Hate Monger giving a speech downtown. The Hate Monger's costume is reminiscent of a KKK uniform, except it is purple. The Hate Monger in his speech says, "Those who are not with us are against us. They must be destroyed. We must drive all the foreigners back to where they came from. We must show no mercy to those we hate." The crowd starts getting riled up, saying, "The Hate Monger's right! Kick the foreigners out of our neighborhood!" Clearly, whether it be 1944, 1964, or 2024, there's always going to be some sort of hate monger driving up the fear and hatred of foreigners. The Thing is so outraged by this speech, he destroys the grandstand where the hate monger was speaking. The hate monger, in retaliation, pulls out a powerful gun called an H-ray. H-ray short for Hatred Ray. He shoots the FF with it, which causes them to hate each other and turn on each other. The Fantastic Four begin fighting amongst themselves. The Thing punching Reed says, "Who asked you to butt in, you skinny-egged headed clown?" And Reed responded, "You don't scare me, ugly. I can always handle an ape who does his thinking with his fists." Johnny butts in saying, "Step aside, useless. I'm gonna teach both of these bums a lesson." Sue replies to Johnny, "Who are you calling useless, you conceited, incorrigible little brat?" After their fighting, the Fantastic Four go their separate ways. Reed Richards heads back to the Baxter Building, and there, Nick Fury is waiting for him. A pre-eye patch Nick Fury. Nick Fury wants Reed to go to South America and investigate an uprising going on there. Although currently the Fantastic Four now kind of hate each other, so Reed Richards decides he's gonna go travel there on his own. But separately, when the rest of the Fantastic Four learn of this, they decide to head there too. Even the Hate Monger himself, when he learns where Reed Richards is going, decides to follow in his subsurface missile device. When Reed arrives in South America, he fights a fascist army in the jungles there. But eventually he gets captured and brought to the Hate Monger. The Hate Monger then shows Reed Richards his giant hate ray machine. He plans to angle it and shoot it at the moon, and it'll bounce off the moon and be able to hit any place on Earth. Reed Richards, when he hears this, realizes that this is why he was noticing some changes in Earth's tides recently. Luckily, Reed Richards gets saved as Nick Fury bursts into the room with a machine gun. Fury takes various soldiers down, and then at gunpoint, he forces the Hate Monger to give Reed Richards an antidote to the hate ray. Reed is given the antidote in the form of a pill, which he takes. It seems like Reed and Nick Fury have won, but then the Hate Monger presses a nearby button, which drops a wall of bulletproof glass, separating them from Reed and Nick. The Hate Monger then attempts to escape. Reed and Fury find their own way out, and eventually they get confronted by the other members of the Fantastic Four, all who still hate Reed Richards. Reed, though, he manages to sort of fight the other Fantastic Four members and force them to take the Hate Ray Antidote pill. And as soon as they do, the other Fantastic Four members are clear-headed once again. The Fantastic Four then team back up with Nick Fury, and they confront the Hate Monger a second time. In their battle with the Hate Monger, he accidentally shoots his H-Ray at his foot soldiers, so his soldiers turn on him, and they take the Hate Monger down and potentially kill him. The Fantastic Four, along with Nick Fury, demask the Hate Monger, revealing his true identity. And get ready for this twist, everyone. The Hate Monger is revealed to be Adolf Hitler himself. The Fantastic Four say, the Mad Fuhrer, the most evil human being the world has ever known. The Hate Ray must have been one of the last achievements of his enslaved Nazi scientists. Reed Richards does cast some doubt, though. He says, actually, we'll never know whether he was the real Hitler or one of the many doubles the Fuhrer was reported to have. Nick Fury to this says, what's the difference, pal? The main thing is that him and his rotten hate ray are kaput. And this time it's for keeps. That is the end of this issue. I gotta say, I was not expecting the Hate Monger to be Hitler himself. What a twist! Alright, moving on. Fantastic Four issue 22, The Return of the Mole Man. In an effort to make Sue Storm more powerful because her invisible powers weren't enough, Stan Lee decided to give her a whole bunch of new powers. So in the Baxter Building, Reed Richards is pushing Sue and having her try out some abilities. And they discover that Sue can now create an invisible force field around herself and others. She can kind of shape it. This force field is strong enough to block the Thing's blows, as well as Johnny Storm's flame powers. Sue also has the ability to now turn others invisible, as well as objects, although when she does so, she cannot be invisible herself. Although if she wanted to, she can make herself partly invisible, and then the other object partly invisible too. Eventually, the Fantastic Four's testing gets interrupted when a police officer comes to visit them. The policeman explains the Fantastic Four have received some complaints because of the ICBM rocket that they keep on the roof of their building. Beyond that, the Fantastic Four get further complaints of others that are annoyed with them living in their building and all the ruckus and problems the FF create for the neighborhood. Later on that day, Reed Richards, getting kind of annoyed by everyone else being annoyed with them, he sees an ad in the mail, a pamphlet that they received. The pamphlet is advertising a small deserted island for sale off the coast of New Jersey. Reed suggests that they go and check it out. It's on sale for cheap. Maybe they can keep their ICBM there and the other equipment that people are complaining about. So the Fantastic Four travel and arrive on the mysterious island, and there they quickly face trouble. Their U-car is dragged underwater, and there they are ambushed by the Mole Man, who captures them and brings them into his underground realm of Subterranea. The Mole Man welcomes them and explains that he went to considerable trouble to get them here. He arranged for all their neighbors to complain about them, and he made sure that they saw the remote island advertisement just at the right time. The Mole Man, now sitting in a plush chair amid his subterranean subjects, says that after their previous encounter, he escaped from Monster Isle through a vast underground system of tunnels excavated by his loyal subjects. And then he started plotting his revenge. He had his subterranean monsters construe enormous hydraulic platforms under all of Earth's largest cities. At a signal from his device here, the platforms will lower the cities into the Earth's core. And when the governments of Earth find their largest cities missing, they will fire missiles at each other, inflicting unimaginable destruction. The Mole Man, he then intends to rule over the survivors of Earth afterwards. The Mole Man, he attempts to press the detonator on the device that will sink the cities of New York and Moscow. But Sue Storm, using her new powers that she developed to this issue, creates an invisible force field around the control mechanism, preventing the Mole Man from touching it. The Mole Man, he grows frustrated, and he has the Fantastic Four fall through a series of trap doors, each separated into individual chambers. And in those chambers, the FF have to face various threats. The Thing, he lands in a room filled with a soft cotton-like material, which initially seems harmless, but the more he struggles in it, the deeper down he sinks. The Thing theorizes that there must be some pipes feeding the material into the room, so the Thing, he manages to find those pipes and crawl his way through it, making his way to an outlet tunnel to freedom. Sue Storm finds herself in a rather pleasant-looking room, similar to a nice living room, but the Mole Man warns her through a TV screen that a nerve gas will soon flood the chamber, and in 30 seconds she will die. Sue discovers, though, that parts of the room are illusions, so Sue uses her invisible powers, but in reverse, and makes invisible objects in the room visible again, allowing her to find the exit to the room just in time. Reed Richards' chamber has walls made out of a non-porous plastic. There's no cracks for him to squeeze through. And then nerve gas starts seeping into his chamber. So Reed, he rolls his body into a tight ball and holds his breath, and he tenses his muscles, and he creates enough pressure to break the walls of the room and escape. Johnny Storm is trapped in a room with something called photoelectric cells that extinguishes flames each time he ignites. So after being covered in sheets of ice, Johnny, he uses an ice shard that he breaks off and shatters the mechanism in the room, freeing himself too. The FF start fighting their way back to the Mole Man. They are purposely trying not to harm the subterranean monsters, as they just have blind loyalty to their leader, but they do not really know what they are doing. The Mole Man has one last trick up his sleeve. He releases a massive 10-ton boulder to try and crush the FF, but Johnny arrives just in time and vaporizes the boulder with a low-intensity Nova Blast. The Mole Man quickly realizes he is outmatched once again. He attempts to retreat further into some tunnels, and the Fantastic Four, they begin to retreat as well. They go back to their U-car and take off. The Mole Man, now deeper into the tunnel, has his detonation device again, and he presses it, meaning to sink the various cities of the world down into the ocean to the core. However, as he presses the button, Reed Richards reveals to the rest of the Fantastic Four that he disconnected the Mole Man's control mechanisms and rigged it in a certain way. That instead of destroying all the other cities of the world, the Mole Man will just destroy his own island instead. And as the Fantastic Four are traveling away, Mole Man's island sinks into the sea along with all of his complex scientific equipment and his monster allies. And once again, at least for now, for a little bit, the world is safe from the Mole Man's schemes. Fantastic Four issue 23, The Master Plan of Dr. Doom. The Fantastic Four are in their headquarters in the Baxter Building, conducting various experiments. They have finally brought Dr. Doom's time machine into their building, and they're playing with it, and they've brought a dinosaur from the past to the present. They managed to eventually grab this runaway dinosaur and send him back. Also, the Fantastic Four seem to be arguing a lot this issue, especially because Reed Richards is being extra smug and kind of a dick. For example, at one point he says, "Hey, stop flapping your lips and get back to work, all you." This really annoys Johnny, Sue, and the Thing, and they decide that they should have a new vote and elect a new leader of the Fantastic Four. So later on, Reed abstains from the voting, and the other three members of the Fantastic Four hold their vote, and they all vote for themselves. So they are not able to pick a new leader. Meanwhile, Dr. Doom has recruited 3 new criminals to work for him. One of them is a man named Bull Brogan. He lacks in brains, but he makes up for it in brawn. Then there's handsome Harry Phillips. He has movie star good looks, he's cunning, cool, and he has the brain of a merciless con man. And lastly, there is Yogi Decor. He used to work in the circus as a fireproof man, and eventually he got arrested for stealing from that said circus. Dr. Doom introduces himself to these 3 men, and he tells them that he has a special machine that will increase their natural powers at least a dozenfold. Bull Brogan is now super strong, although not as strong as the Thing. Handsome Harry's hearing is now strong enough that he can hear a feather dropping, so this way he can hear where the invisible woman is going to be. And Yogi Decor is now completely fireproof, which will come in hand with Johnny Storm. Dr. Doom gives all of them orders to take down various members of the FF. So Doom's plan is put into action. Johnny Storm is told that a wealthy Maharaja wants to gift him a fabulous new fancy car. When Johnny goes to pick up this car, it is actually that Yogi Decor in disguise, and he manages to kidnap the torch. And when Johnny tries to flame him, it has no use, as Yogi is immune to fire now. Bull Brogan attacks the Thing, and shoots him with some sort of cosmic ray gun which turns him back into Ben Grimm. Bull Brogan then knocks Ben out. Handsome Harry, he gives Sue Storm some flowers, claiming he's a huge fan of hers. Sue soon realizes though it's a trap and she turns invisible, but because of Handsome Harry's increased hearing, he can hear her heartbeat, so he still manages to capture and kidnap her. And Dr. Doom manages to lure Reed Richards in with a fake robot of the Thing. Doom, he has all the Fantastic Four brought to a warehouse before him. Firstly though, Doom pays off all of his new recruits. He says, "Each box here contains $5,000. You have earned the money by your loyalty to me." The 3 new criminals happily accept their money. As soon as they each open the box with the money though, it turns out that Doom teleported them all to another dimension. Doom, he laughs maniacally and says, "And there you 3 will remain until your master has need for you again." You gotta give credit to Doom. The man is a shrewd businessman. Alright, the last few pages of this story are absolute garbage. Dr. Doom is battling the Fantastic Four. They're too strong for him, so I guess he activates something called Cosmic Dust, which I guess he sprayed the room with, and it basically turns the floor of the room, and it's like transported to space, and then some solar waves are gonna come, and they're gonna react with this cosmic dust, and it's gonna kill them all. Doom, he tries to escape to leave the FF to their fate, but then Sue Storm, using her powers, holds Doom in a force field so he can't leave, and if Doom doesn't free them, he's gonna die too. So Doom, he quickly rewires the room to save them all. He says, "I don't want to die with you. The world must not lose a magnificent brain like mine." So Doom, he saves them, and then he still tries to escape on his own. Eventually he does, and he falls into space. The Fantastic Four then manage to find an exit to the room and leave just before it gets destroyed. The made-up science-y gobbledygook was a little bit too much at the end of this issue. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Fantastic Four issue 24, The Infant Terrible. The Fantastic Four are entertaining some reporters in the Baxter building when all of a sudden there is news of a big event happening in Times Square. Something crazy. The reporters all quickly pile out to go see what the commotion is, and the Fantastic Four decide they better check it out as well. When the FF arrive in Times Square, they see all sorts of crazy things happening. A giant top is spinning in a crowd, and then a whole bunch of green toy soldiers about to double the size of a normal human start appearing downtown. There's like zillions of them. Reed Richards has a hunch of how to deal with this. He tells the police to play their sirens on their police cars as loud as they can, have the noise fill the whole city. The police do so, and sure enough, eventually, all those toy soldiers vanish. Reed Richards explains that he theorized that someone was causing those things to appear, and the noise of all the sirens might shock the culprit and make them lose control. And sure enough, that's what happened. Finally, they find the source of all these shenanigans happening downtown. It is a weird-looking alien named Delinquent, aka the Infant Terrible. The Infant Terrible is a member of an alien race known as the Elan. These aliens possess near unlimited reality warping abilities. Their abilities are limited only by their own imagination. So this Infant Terrible is walking downtown, and he is using his powers to do kind of silly things. He makes a lamp post and turns it into a giant plant with berries on it. He turns some sort of faucet into an ice cream soda, and the alien starts drinking it. The reporters start crowding the alien, and this scares the alien. And using some of its powers, he picks the reporters up and grabs them and puts them on a rooftop of a building across the street. Eventually, Reed Richards and Sue Storm theorize that this alien must actually be an infant, creating the giant soldiers, his desire for sweet berries, ice cream sodas, all the behavioral patterns of an infant. And also, the alien seems to have a failure to communicate. As soon as the authorities learn of Reed Richards' theory, the news starts spreading like wildfire. And that is when some nefarious mobsters decide that maybe they can exploit this situation for their own gains. So a whole bunch of mobsters come in their car, and they lure the alien into their car with some candy. And sure enough, next thing you know, we see all these mobsters in a car, and in the back seat we see the alien with a candy cane in his hand, and he's licking some ice cream. Back at the Fantastic Four headquarters, they are discussing this alien and his abilities. His reality warping powers are very immense. This alien is a real threat. What if the alien decided to reduce everything on Earth to toy size? Reed's greatest worry, though, is that the alien will see the sun just dangling in front of his eyes, and he'll decide to reach for it, and then he'll pull the sun to the Earth and the whole solar system will collapse. Reed Richards is going to stay at the FF headquarters and try to come up with a solution, but he tells the others to go out there and try to minimize the damage. Elsewhere, the mobsters are having this Infant Terrible perform various deeds for them. The alien, using his powers, picks up an armored car and brings it over to the mobsters. The mobsters tricked the alien into doing this by showing him pictures of the car and having him be attracted to pulling it towards him. The mobsters are at first very happy, and they are just grabbing bags of money and piles of cash. But then the little infant alien starts having some fun. He starts turning the cash into pigs, and he starts making some of the bags of money sprout wings and they start flying away. And some of the other money just turns into mud. The The mobsters are pissed, but the little baby alien is having himself a ball. One of the mobsters gets a bright idea. He shows the little alien a diamond ring, and he wants the alien to make the diamond bigger. And at first the alien does. The diamond grows massive in size, like the size of a basketball. But then all of a sudden it changes into a giant egg, and a bird sprouts from it. All of a sudden the mobster is confused by what is happening. The Fantastic Four then arrive. They fight the mobsters and take them down. And then they continue trying to talk the alien down, but nothing is working, and the alien starts growing more and more scared, and he starts attacking more and more things. Meanwhile, Reed Richards is trying his idea. He has developed some sort of machine that will shoot radio signals into deep space. Reed is trying to contact the parents of the little alien. Reed, he somehow manages to reach deep space and send a message. The little alien, though, is still continuing to battle the other members of the Fantastic Four, and things are getting more and more dire. The people in the streets of New York are running in fear, as the alien is scared of them too. The alien has no knowledge or understanding of the human race, so anything that the humans are carrying could be weapons for all he knows. So in the blink of an eye, the alien is causing packages and parcels and handbags and hats and everything to rise into the air out of the reach of the humans. Eventually, a spaceship starts coming to Earth. Reed Richards spots it. He hopes that this is the alien's parents. The little alien, he is still causing various destruction, and all of a sudden, he sees the sun appear out of the clouds. It was hidden earlier, but now it is in full view. And as Reed suspected, the little baby alien, he's attracted to the sun, and he starts to begin to reach out to the sun, and he's going to pull it to the earth. But then the alien's parents arrive, and they tell their child, "Stop! You must do no more. You must come with me." And eventually the parents take their child home, and they leave the earth. Fantastic Four issue 25, The Hulk vs. the Thing. In the Baxter Building, Reed Richards has developed another formula that will change the Thing back into Ben Grimm. Reed says he developed this particular formula by accident, and he will probably never be able to duplicate it. But Reed thinks that this formula is going to actually work permanently. The Thing will remain as Ben Grimm forever. But somehow the Thing, he doesn't want this, as he is afraid that Alicia Masters won't love him if he is no longer the Thing. And in anger, the Thing smashes the formula and the vial breaks, and it is gone. This really angers and frustrates Reed Richards. The Thing tells Reed, "If you can ever find a formula that'll let me change back and forth from Ben Grimm to the Thing at will, then I'll drink it. But I don't want to give up being the Thing. You read me?" Moments later, Alicia enters the Baxter Building, and she shows them a copy of the newspaper. Apparently, the Hulk and the Avengers had an epic battle overseas, and the Hulk has now been kicked out of the Avengers and been replaced with Captain America. The Hulk has since vanished. Elsewhere, the Hulk is still angry at the Avengers, and he is also angry with his lot in life. He hates being Bruce Banner. He only wants to be the Hulk. The Hulk then manages to come across a newspaper clipping. He learns that he has been replaced in the Avengers with someone named Captain America. This angers the Hulk. He wants to get revenge on the Avengers. So, the Hulk decides to travel to New York, where the Avengers last were, and take them down. Meanwhile, elsewhere we see two members of the Avengers, Captain America and Iron Man, and they are talking to the Hulk's friend, Rick Jones. And they are too trying to track down the location of the Hulk. Back in New York City, in the Baxter Building, Reed Richards has fallen ill. Apparently the formula he was working on for the Thing was very dangerous, and now Reed Richards is sick. He has a fever and is constantly passing out and sleeping. They all decide they need to get a doctor back here to check on Reed. It is at that moment, though, when the Hulk arrives in New York and begins causing destruction. Sue, Johnny, and the Thing quickly go to try and deal with the Hulk. Johnny, he arrives first to take on the Hulk. He attempts to shower the Hulk with molten bricks that he's throwing. The Hulk, though, just grabs a lamp post, breaks it off of the ground, and then tries to swat Johnny with it. Eventually, the Hulk just smashes the ground as hard as he can, and the impact and resulting shockwave takes Johnny down. The Hulk then grabs Johnny with his bare hands and renders him unconscious. Sue and the Thing then quickly arrive on the scene. Johnny manages to wake up once again. He tries to continue fighting the Hulk, but he really is not capable. The Hulk grabs Johnny and is going to toss him, but then Sue creates an invisible shield around Johnny. The Hulk tries to break down the shield by pounding on it. When that doesn't work, he then leaps high into the air, taking Johnny with him, stretching Sue's projected shield to its limit. The strain was too much for Sue and she faints. The Hulk, he then returns to the Earth. He still has Johnny's Storm in his hands. He is basically holding Johnny like his ragdoll prisoner now. The Thing finally stands in front of the Hulk. The Hulk recognizes him, saying, "The Thing?" The Thing replies, "So you remember me, huh? Well, this time I'm gonna make sure you never forget me." The last time these two fought was way back in issue 12. The Hulk tells the Thing, "You mean nothing to me. It is the Avengers I want to destroy. But if I must smash you first, then smash you I will." The Thing punches the Hulk and the Hulk flies back into an abandoned warehouse. The Hulk, he then rages out of that warehouse and starts careening towards the Thing. But a bus gets in between them. But the Hulk, he just grabs that bus and rips it in half. And then the Hulk grabs the tires off the bus and chucks them at the Thing. The Thing, he manages to avoid the tires. But then the Hulk eventually makes his way to the Thing. He grabs him and he tosses the Thing high up into the air. As the Thing is just being flown into the air, the Thing, he manages to stop his flying by grabbing the top of the ledge of a building. The Hulk continues his pursuit though. He begins shaking the foundations of that building. As the building shakes, the Thing, he begins falling back to the ground. The Thing, he crashes through the cement on the ground. The Hulk tries to pull the Thing back up to the surface, but instead accidentally grabs some high voltage electric cables that are down there. And those cables send 1,000,000 volts of electricity through him. The Yancy street gang are watching this fight between the Thing and the Hulk, and they want to try and assist the Thing in his battle. They find a medium-sized truck, and they send it careening towards both the Thing and the Hulk. The Yancy street gang believe that this distraction may aid the Thing in getting the upper hand. So that medium truck crashes into both the Thing and the Hulk, and it drives them all the way down to the dock near the water, and they get launched into the sea. Once they hit the water, the Thing swims back up to the surface. He finds a speedboat. He takes the speedboat and tries to start driving the speedboat away from the Hulk. But the Hulk, he just leaps, and he crashes through the boat and destroys it. The two of them then make their way to the Washington Bridge and continue their battle atop that bridge. The Thing on the bridge manages to grab some cable and tie it around the Hulk, but the Hulk just quickly busts free from it. And then, finally, the Hulk winds up a big haymaker and he feeds that punch to the Thing, knocking the Thing out cold. The Hulk, he then screams for revenge, saying, "I have more important work to do. I'll tear the city apart, brick by brick if I have to find the Avengers, and now there's nothing that can stop me." The Hulk, he moves on, and the Thing, he eventually recovers. And when the Thing wakes up, he says to himself, He beat me. That brainless, muscle-bound creep beat me. It never happened before. Maybe it's what I needed. I was beginning to think I was unbeatable. Boy, what a laugh. Well, Like my dear old Aunt Petunia used to say, you can only die once, and that's the only way he'll stop me now, by killing me. This storyline now continues in the next issue, Fantastic Four issue 26, The Avengers Take Over. Reed Richards is still recovering from his illness. Sue Storm finds her invisible energy powers too weak to cope with the Hulk, and Johnny Storm has been hospitalized due to his injuries when the Hulk attacked him. And the Thing, despite losing round 1, has decided to come back for round 2 and continue the battle with the Hulk. As the battle is raging on, film crews start filming it, and Reed Richards sees some of the fighting from the TV in his hospital room. Reed desperately wants to aid the Thing against the Hulk. Johnny Storm, despite his injuries and bandages, decides to rejoin the fighting as well. He flies out of the hospital and he attacks the Hulk. The Hulk pulls a fire hydrant out of the ground and aims it right at Johnny. Johnny, he manages to fly around and avoid the fire hydrant water, and then he aims a fire blast at the top of an old building behind the Hulk. The old building collapses behind the Hulk, showering him in rubble, but the Hulk merely brushes it aside. The Hulk, he then grabs 2 bricks and smashes them together in his hands. He does this with such force it creates a concussive blast, sending the Thing and Johnny Storm flying back. The military arrives and they fire missiles at the Hulk, but the Hulk, he just catches them in his hand like it's a baseball, and he chucks them into the sky. The Hulk then temporarily retreats into the New York City subway tunnels. Elsewhere, the Thing and Johnny Storm have landed on the ground. Johnny, he needs some time to recover, but the Thing, he brushes himself off, and he continues his search for the Hulk. The Hulk, he travels through the underground tunnels and makes his way to Tony Stark's mansion, which is currently where the Avengers are operating out of. Hulk arrives at the mansion, and the Avengers have finally returned to New York, and they are there to confront the Hulk. The Hulk is most upset because he feels his friend Rick Jones has betrayed him to the Avengers. The Hulk, he tries to reach out and grab Rick, but the Avengers all leap in to save him and attack the Hulk. The Hulk, he manages to fight through them though. He grabs Rick and escapes with him, and the Avengers are pursuing. Back at the hospital, Reed Richards has finally been given some sort of antidote to the illness that was ailing him, and he has recovered. Reed, he feels ready to assist the Thing and the Avengers in taking down the Hulk. Meanwhile, the Avengers are continuing their fight with the Hulk. Wasp has shrunken down very small, and she has flown into the Hulk's ear, and the buzzing is causing a distraction in the Hulk. He's off balance, his head feels like it's pounding, and in this distraction, Captain America manages to get in a few blows. The rest of the Fantastic Four arrive, and they begin to try and assist the Avengers in taking down the Hulk. Although, now that everyone is here, they start accidentally getting in each other's way. Johnny Storm creates a flame wall between Captain America and the Hulk. Iron Man gets in Reed Richards' way and gets entangled in Reed's stretched out arms. Sue Storm attempts to trap the Hulk in an invisible force field, but she accidentally captures Giant Man instead when he leaps in the way. Thor attempts to throw his hammer at the Hulk, but the Thing accidentally stepped in the way and took the brunt of the hammer being thrown. The Hulk, he attacks Iron Man, burying him in steel girders, but Thor frees him with his hammer. The Thing attacks the Hulk on this unfinished skyscraper, but they both fall. Hulk manages to grab a girder, while the Thing lands in wet cement. Hulk continues his battling. Captain America distracts the Hulk with a wrecking ball which is launched towards him, which Hulk manages to hurl back. Cap dodges out of the way of the wrecking ball and outmaneuvers Hulk before being flung by a sudden plank. Giant Man / Ant-Man, he joins the fight, aided by his army of ants. The Hulk's friend Rick Jones goes over to the Hulk, and Rick, he throws something called a gamma ray capsule into the Hulk's mouth, something Bruce Banner gave Rick months ago to use in emergency situations. This capsule will revert the Hulk back into his Bruce Banner form momentarily. Ant-Man's ants now overwhelm the Hulk's body, crawling all over him. The Hulk, he runs to the Hudson River in an attempt to shake the ants off. As the ants are driving him crazy, Hulk dives into the water, and then he disappears, losing both the Avengers and the FF. And a while later, the Hulk eventually emerges from the water, now turned back into his human form. In the aftermath of the fighting, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four talk, and they each share their mutual respect for each other's groups. And despite their relief that their fight with the Hulk is over, at least for today, both groups say how they still want to help the Hulk, hoping he'll someday understand that they're not his enemies, and they are all just trying to save the Hulk from himself. Fantastic Four issue 27, The Search for the Submariner. In the Baxter building, Reed Richards is playing with a new machine he built, something called a thought projector. And in this thought projector, Reed is imagining sexy images of Sue. The Thing, seeing what Reed is thinking about, says, "What do you know? His brain ain't just a mess of test tubes and 6-syllable words." Reed, he then explains his machine to the others. The Thing, he really wants to try it. So Reed straps the Thing into his thought projector. Although when the Thing starts wearing it, he starts imagining Dr. Doom attacking him with some sort of purple pineapple thing, and the Thing starts freaking out. Reed tells the Thing, "I should have warned you, Ben. Don't think of any menaces like Dr. Doom. The projector will magnify their realism and shock you." But the Thing, he freaks out and falls back, and he wants out of that machine very quickly. Sue Storm, she leaves. She says, "If you boys don't mind, I'm leaving. No girl wants to have her thoughts revealed." And as Sue heads out, Thing, Johnny, and Reed talk. The Thing asks Reed, "Hey Reed, you don't understand females. That chick is nuts about you, but she ain't gonna wait forever for you to pop the question." That is when Reed tells Johnny and the Thing that he in fact plans to go ring shopping later today. He's planning to propose. Meanwhile, in the undersea kingdom of Namor, ever since the events of the annual #1 issue, where Namor was so enthralled with Sue that the other Atlanteans turned on him and abandoned him, all for except a small contingent of warriors still loyal to Namor. But for the most part, most of the Atlanteans are gone. Namor, alone, he says to himself, "My people have fled from me, only a few faithful warriors remain, and yet, if I could have the surface girl I love at my side, nothing else would matter. For with Sue Storm as my princess, I would find my people, restore the glory of my undersea empire, and make the reign of Prince Namor the most glorious in the history of Atlantis." Moments later, Namor addresses the last of his faithful warriors. He says, "Hear my decision, warriors of Atlantis. I plan to go to Earth's surface and return with Sue Storm as my intended bride." The warriors, they do not like this. They tell Namor, "No, sire, you must not. The surface people are our enemies. It is unthinkable." Namor does not back down though, so the last of his faithful warriors abandon him too, saying, "He left us no choice. We must desert him. We cannot be loyal to a monarch who would betray his royal heritage." Namor, now alone on his throne, thinks to himself, "They did what they felt they had to. Now I can do no less. I must follow my heart, no matter what price I have to pay." So Namor, he returns to the surface, to the Baxter building. He sprays some sort of knockout gas on Johnny and the Thing, and he kidnaps Sue Storm once again. Moments later, Reed Richards arrives back home, and he has the engagement ring for Sue with him. That is when Thing and Johnny tell Reed that Namor took off with Sue and kidnapped her. Reed is so outraged, he uses a special machine to find out where Namor is, and then he heads off on his own. He does not want Thing or Johnny with him to stop him. So Reed heads off after Namor, and Johnny and the Thing are worried that Namor and Reed are gonna kill each other, and they need to interfere, but they don't know how to find Namor. So they decide to contact another hero in the superhero community, a Dr. Stephen Strange. Johnny Storm flies in the sky with his flame powers and writes, "Dr. Strange, urgent, contact Human Torch." Dr. Strange sees this message, and then he projects his astral form and arrives at the Baxter building to talk to Johnny and the Thing. There, Johnny and the Thing explain the situation with Reed and Namor and Sue, and how they are worried that they might kill each other. Dr. Strange says he will help them find the location of Namor. Meanwhile, in Namor's undersea kingdom, Sue Storm and Namor talk. Sue tells Namor, "Namor, let me out! Do you think you can make me confess my love to you by imprisoning me?" Namor replies, "I don't want to make you a captive. Why can't you understand? I've never had a chance to plead my cause with you. Never had a chance to date you, to be with you, the way Reed Richards has. All I ask is 24 hours. 24 hours to tell you how I love you, to ask you to be mine." Sue responds, "But Reed will find you, and when he does, nothing can save you." Namor to this says, "So, still you torment me. Am I never to know? Is it Reed Richards or is it me you love? Is it his safety you are concerned about, or is it mine?" Dr. Strange flying around in his astral form, he witnesses these events. He also witnesses Reed Richards swimming towards Namor's base. Apparently, Reed has some sort of special pill that allows him to breathe underwater for an hour. So with this pill, Reed eventually arrives inside Namor's undersea base. There, the two of them start fighting, Reed hitting Namor with all of his various stretchy powers. Eventually, a few of Namor's warriors return, deciding that they shouldn't abandon their prince. So Reed has to start fighting them off too. Elsewhere, Dr. Strange arrives back at the Baxter building to Thing and Johnny. Using his powers, he teleports the two of them onto Namor's base for them to help Reed. So now, Reed, Thing, and Johnny are fighting off Namor and a few of Namor's loyal warriors. The fighting ensues for several pages, but eventually the fighting stops when Sue Storm starts using her invisible force field powers to stop both groups from fighting each other. Namor tells Sue, "Richards is lucky that you still felt enough loyalty to him to interfere with my vengeance." Sue replies to Namor, "No, Namor, not loyalty. My feeling was love." Namor says, "What are you saying? You can't love him. I've claimed you for myself. You must be mine." "Silly Namor, you can't just claim a woman for yourself and expect her to go along with it." Sue to this says, "The one thing an Imperial command cannot affect is a girl's heart. I'm sorry, Namor. Sorry if you misunderstood the sympathy I felt for you. Yes, even the affection I felt. Sorry if you thought it was love, but I realize now, Reed is the only man for me, and nothing can ever change that." Dr. Strange, he is watching all of these events go down from his headquarters, and he says aloud to himself, the Sea Prince has never been scorned before. His rage is mounting. He is capable of anything. There is yet time for me to prevent a tragedy. I must act immediately. I must separate them once again." Namor, he wants to continue fighting, and gives his warriors some orders. But then, all of a sudden, Dr. Strange teleports all the Fantastic Four away onto their nearby submarine. And on that submarine, the Fantastic Four continue traveling home. As they are traveling home, Reed asks Sue, "Sue, darling, about what you said back in Namor's palace." Sue to this says, "Please, Reed, I'd prefer not to discuss it now. I'm still so shaken." The Thing asks Sue, "Hey, you didn't just say what you did in order to prevent any more fighting, did you?" Reed stops Sue from answering and says, "No, don't answer that, Sue. I think I'd rather not know your answer." And as they sail off on that submarine, Sue thinks to herself, "Oh, Reed, you blind fool. Of course it's you I love, but how can I ever convince you? You'll always suspect I may have just been trying to protect you, or Namor." Fantastic Four issue 28. We have to fight the X-Men. In the Baxter Building headquarters, we see that Alicia Masters has built a statue of her boyfriend, The Thing. The Thing really likes it. Sue, Johnny, and Reed, meanwhile, are reading the newspaper, all about the X-Men that are all the rage right now out there in the world. Elsewhere, the Mad Thinker, along with his android, Awesome Andy, has a meeting with the Puppet Master. The Mad Thinker wants to team up. He orders the Puppet Master to create a puppet of the X-Men's leader, Professor X. This way they can control him. The Puppet Master, he follows the Mad Thinker's plan. With his radioactive clay, he sculpts an image of Professor X, and then he attempts to exert his control over the Professor. Professor X at first attempts to block this control over him, but eventually he fails and his mind is no longer his own. He is now being controlled by the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master. Now in control of Professor X, they order him to call a meeting of his X-Men. We see all of his X-Men arrive. There's Jean Grey, Iceman, Angel, Beast, and Cyclops. Professor X orders them all to capture the Fantastic Four and destroy them. Beast, he argues, but why, Professor? There seems to be no logic to it. Professor X tells them, I'll decide that. Remember, the power of my mutant brain enables me to listen in to other people's thoughts. Thus have I learned that the Fantastic Four plan world domination. They must be stopped, and only we can do it. Now go. The X-Men, not one to doubt their leader, obey his commands. The X-Men then fly their helicopter over to the Baxter Building to meet the Fantastic Four. They come under the guise of friendship, just a friendly meet and greet, so the Fantastic Four welcome them in. At first, everything is friendly. Jean Grey tells Sue Storm, "You're even lovelier than the pictures I've seen of you, Miss Storm." Reed, he shakes Cyclops' hands, and the Thing admires the Angel's wings. But then eventually, the Puppet Master, through Professor X, orders the X-Men to start attacking the FF. So a fight breaks out. Jean Grey, with her telekinesis powers, breaks the statue of the Thing that Alicia made, which is a real bummer. We see the various fighting going on, Cyclops firing his optic blasts, Johnny Storm flying around on fire, the Beast trying to tackle people down, Reed bouncing around like a ball, Iceman chucking ice at the Thing. Their battling eventually leads to a stalemate, so the X-Men decide to capture and kidnap Sue Storm, and they take her away to an island that the Professor told them about. Reed, Johnny, and the Thing then pursue the X-Men to this island. The battling continues some more, and then eventually the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master arrive themselves, along with the android. The Puppet Master, with the puppet of Professor X, orders the Professor to put all the X-Men now to sleep. As great of a brain as Professor X may have, when spread out over 5 subjects at once trying to put them to sleep, his powers are thinned out to the point where another strong brain might resist it, a brain such as Beast's. Beast, he disregards Professor X's command, as he knows the Puppet Master now is controlling him. So Beast, he manages to fight back. He knocks the puppet out of the Puppet Master's hand, and he breaks it, thus also breaking the control over Professor X. With that control gone now, the X-Men wake up, and they team up with the Fantastic Four, and they all together as one now begin battling the Mad Thinker, his android, as well as the Puppet Master. The Mad Thinker's android is putting up a very strong fight, but miles away, Professor X, now clear-minded, uses his mental powers to shut the android down. But while this distraction was going on, the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master managed to escape. In the aftermath, the X-Men apologize to the Fantastic Four for fighting them, and the two groups make peace and are happy to be allies in the future. Once the X-Men leave, Reed Richards inspects the android that has been put to sleep by Professor X. Reed says, "If the android was beaten the way I suspect he was, the leader of the X-Men is far wiser than anyone dreams." Fantastic Four issue 29. It started on Yancy Street. Yancy Street is a street that Ben Grimm, Thing, grew up on, and it is also the home of the Yancy Street Gang. The Yancy Street Gang often play practical jokes on the Thing because they think that the Thing thinks of himself as a big shot now that he's part of the Fantastic Four, and that he's forgotten where his roots come from. So as the Fantastic Four are patrolling Yancy Street, as supposedly there's been an increase of crime, they're not really fully welcome. The Yancy Street gang is throwing heads of lettuce at them and dumping a garbage can onto the thing. They throw a bucket of water on Johnny Storm and they spray some sneezing powder on the Invisible Girl. Eventually, the Fantastic Four leave this neighborhood and return home to the Baxter Building. Once in the Baxter Building, they wonder if any of their old enemies are maybe behind the Yancy Street gang, goading them on. While they're talking, the Thing expresses how he's a little bit self-conscious about his relationship with Alicia. He says, "I have been meaning to tell you guys something for weeks. I'm fixing to break up with Alicia. It ain't fair for a slob like me to waste that doll's time." Johnny Storm tells the Thing he's being nuts. She's in love with him, even if he's too dumb to see it. And it is at that moment that Alicia arrives. And she actually says she came here to break up with the Thing. The Thing turns to the others and says, "Ah, I knew it. I was right all this time. You finally realized I ain't good enough for you. And it's true, honey. I don't blame you." But that's not it at all. Alicia to this says, "No, Ben, my darling. It is I who am not good enough for you. You're so wonderful. Any girl would be proud to have your love. I can't let you waste your life with me, just out of pity." The Thing to this replies, "You think I see you out of pity? Don't ever say that again, you hear? You're the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Now I realize that it's you and me, baby, and that's the way it'll always be." Anyway, the two of them embrace and share a nice moment. While they are all talking, a small little red spy plane drops off a package for the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four open the package, and it emits a blinding cloud of thick white vapor in front of the Thing's face. Inside the package, there's also a note. The note is supposedly from the Yancy Street gang, and they want the Fantastic Four to come back at midnight to face them. So later that night, at midnight, the Fantastic Four arrive. Only it is not the Yancy Street gang there waiting for them. It is the Red Ghost and his Super Apes. The last we saw the communist villain, the Red Ghost, was in issue 13. They traveled all the way to the blue area of the moon where they had a confrontation with the Watcher, and they fought there on the moon. When that issue ended, the Red Ghost was stranded on the blue area of the moon along with his 3 apes. Mikolo, the gorilla that's really strong, Piotr, the orangutan with magnetic powers, and Igor, the baboon capable of shapeshifting. So the Red Ghost and his 3 super apes have somehow traveled back to Earth, and they fight the Fantastic Four. Eventually, the Red Ghost gets the upper hand as he has his baboon shove Johnny Storm into an asbestos-lined sack. The Red Ghost then makes the rest of the Fantastic Four stop fighting as he threatens to shoot and kill Johnny. The Red Ghost, he says, "You prevented me from claiming the moon for my communist masters, and you must pay for that. Now surrender, or I'll fire into this sack and finish off the torch." The Red Ghost then insists that the Fantastic Four get into his spaceship. His spaceship is magnetically powered. His orangutan with magnetic powers, Piotr, is able to make the ship fly with his magnetic abilities, making it hover in place or go up or down. So they all get in the spaceship, and Piotr, he flies this ship all the way back up to the moon, back where they had their first confrontation. Once they get towards the moon, the Red Ghost piles the Fantastic Four into a small room on his ship, and then he ejects that entire room out of his ship, and it crash lands on the moon and breaks. The Fantastic Four would surely die, although Sue Storm with her invisible force field powers manages to create a force field around them, keeping oxygen in, although they only have a few minutes of oxygen inside that force field. So now the FF are on the moon and they are running out of oxygen, stuck under this force field. What are they going to do? Well, they figure they need to get back to the blue area of the moon because, from their last adventures here on the moon, they can breathe under that particular atmosphere. Reed Richards stretches his head way up into the sky so that they can see where this blue area of the moon is. And he does spot it. It's at the other end of this peak that is in front of them. They are worried though, as there is no way they can walk all the way there around that peak. But the thing, he thinks he can dig their way there by punching through all the various rock on the moon. And sure enough, that is exactly what they do. The thing, he starts digging through the ground, and eventually they arrive at some sort of tunnel. The tunnel is not the blue area of the moon, but there is some oxygen in it, and they can breathe here. The Fantastic Four, they walk through this tunnel, and eventually they come to meet the Watcher once again. The Watcher greets them, saying, "I am in a far distant galaxy now, observing matters you cannot even begin to comprehend. But I sensed your presence here, so I sent a spectral image of myself to greet you. You need not explain why you are here, I can sense your thoughts. You know that I am pledged never to interfere with the affairs of others. I may only watch and observe. But I am permitted to issue a warning. Though you are welcome to seek shelter in my home, you must be careful not to tamper with the devices within." The Watcher then shows them some of the crazy devices he has in his home. The Watcher tells Reed, "For example, the small object you are now holding. It will speed up your evolution 10,000 years a second. Even now you have become the way man may be in 20,000 years. Drop it before it's too late." Reed Richards' brain in his head grows massive in size, but he drops this machine and returns back to normal. The Watcher shows another device, saying, "The globe in front of you holds an uninhabited planet, 30 times larger than your sun. I reduced it to the size you see before you, so that I might study it at my leisure." The Watcher then shows another device, he says, "And even I do not know what that object is. I found it in a remote galaxy and have been studying it for centuries. But my time is up. I must leave you now. My presence is needed in a far distant star cluster. Farewell. I pray we shall meet again." Well, the Fantastic Four, as far as they know, are stuck in this area of the moon, and the Red Ghost, up there in space, flying above the moon, is prepared to go home, assuming the Fantastic Four are dead. Reed Richards, though, even though the Watcher told him to not mess with any of his weird technology, decides to use some of that technology anyway. So Reed, he grabs one of the Watcher's devices and shoots it at the Red Ghost's ship, which causes it to be pulled back down to the moon with an unimaginable force. The Red Ghost and his super apes then continue battling the Fantastic Four in the Watcher's home. The FF slowly start gaining the upper hand, and the super apes run away and retreat. All that is left now is the Red Ghost himself. The Red Ghost, he is intangible, like a ghost. However, Sue Storm, using her invisible force field powers, creates a force field around the Red Ghost. And apparently by doing this, the Red Ghost can no longer remain unsolid within. So now that he is in his physical form, the Red Ghost then gets pushed into a weird machine of the Watchers. This machine is some sort of portal leading into a red, spirally room. The Red Ghost, now in this strange area, asks, "What's happening to me? What have you done? Why do I feel so strange? Everything's spinning round. I seem to be in one spot, and yet I'm traveling faster than anyone has ever traveled before. Everything is fading away. The whole world seems to be slipping past me. Am I going mad? Am I? And then the Red Ghost is gone. Reed Richards explains that this machine is some sort of matter transmitter. For all we know, the Watcher himself might employ it to travel from galaxy to galaxy. But the Red Ghost, right now, he could be anywhere in the universe. As the Fantastic Four are talking, they see that the Super Apes have gone back into their spaceship and taken off, flying away. The Fantastic Four are worried that they are now going to be stuck here on the moon, in the Watcher's home. The Watcher, though, he returns. He explains that although he cannot meddle in the affairs of other creatures, he is allowed to act in order to ensure his own privacy. And he does not want these people in his home anymore, so he sends them back down to Earth. The Fantastic Four are happy to be home, and the Thing, he starts kissing a light post, saying how it's so good to be back. Okay, one thing I want to point out that I think is kind of cool. In Fantastic Four issue 32, a young 16-year-old George R.R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones, wrote a letter to Stan and Jack for the Fantastic Four fan column letters at the end of the issue. And George R.R. was commenting about the storyline in this particular issue. So I will read his criticism to you here. Dear Stan and Jack, ho-hum! Another month, another bunch of classics. But then, what else can one expect from you chaps? FF29 was once again sublime with the beautiful Kirby stone artwork, giving just the right impact to Stan's sparkling script. As for that last panel on page 11, I could rave all day and still not run out of words. When my beady little eyes first glinted hungrily at that panel, hydrogen bombs exploded inside my brain, and I was swept away by the sheer magnificence of it. Please, fellas, don't do that too often unless you want to see me die young. However, I regret to inform you that I found one flaw in this otherwise perfect masterpiece, a flaw that is regrettably very common with you. When we last saw the Red Ghost in FF13, he was stuck on the moon being chased around by 3 superpowered apes, livid with hatred and waving Mr. Fantastic's Paralyzer Ray at him. Now suddenly you bring him back in full control of his apes without one single word of explanation? This isn't the first time you've brought back a villain without properly explaining how. You did it when you revived the Puppet Master in FF14 after Reed had pronounced him dead in FF8. Some scientist can't even tell whether a chap is living or dead, but is bright enough to come up with a super amplified cosmic powered radioactive doohickey ray at a moment's notice? In conclusion, I'll wish you good luck on all forthcoming books, but Stan, don't pull any more returning villains out of your hat. Next time, tell us how they remade the scene, okay? Okay. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty cool. Made it into the letters column of the FF. George apparently over the years actually wrote many letters to various comics that he liked, including several to the Fantastic Four. Stan's excuse was pretty shit. He said, "Wow, our face is red. You want the truth, Georgie? We just plain forgot where we last left the Red Ghost, and we didn't have the time to look the issue up because the printer was breathing down our necks with our deadline. But suppose we offer another generous no prize to the reader who can come up with the best explanation of how he saved himself. That ought to win the sneakiest editor award of the year." So there you go, George R.R. Martin's criticism, very valid, very on point, and even a 16-year-old George R.R. Martin read the Fantastic Four comics. Even his letter is so eloquently written, too. Moving on to the next issue now. Now time for the final issue in this volume, Fantastic Four, issue 30. The Dreaded Diablo. This issue marks the first appearance of the FF villain, Diablo. And I do have to say, it is a pretty bad one. It is not a very good issue. A lot of problems with this one. But let's dive into it. The Fantastic Four are on vacation, and they decided to go to Transylvania for reasons not explained. And they head to a nearby spooky castle. And in that castle, they meet a man named Baron Hugo, who is the mayor of this territory. The mayor invites the Fantastic Four to spend the night at his estate, where he will tell them the legend of Diablo. The Baron, he explains, Diablo was an evil alchemist whose strange potions menaced all of mankind. Our ancestors sealed him within his castle 100 years ago for our own protection. It is rumored that he had found the secret of prolonging human life. Our people fear he still lives within his castle, still waiting for the day he can escape to menace mankind anew. At night, while everyone is sleeping, somehow Diablo is able to communicate with the Thing. Whispering to him, he manages to put the Thing in a trance. The Thing, he leaves his room and he walks towards the forest, and arrives at an almost hidden crypt that is sealed with a giant door that has an iron ring. A door so heavy, really only one as the Thing could open it. The Thing, he opens it and heads inside, and there is a stone-like slab which is imprisoning Diablo underneath. The Thing, he breaks it, freeing Diablo, finally, after 100 or so years. In the morning, the rest of the Fantastic Four awaken, and they follow the destructive trail the Thing has left behind, and it leads them to Diablo and the Thing. Apparently, Diablo offered the Thing some kind of deal. He gave the Thing some kind of potion that would make him handsome again, although it's kind of weird because he's like not human looking, he's just a more handsome version of the Thing. When the rest of the Fantastic Four arrive, they talk with Diablo and the Thing, and they are surprised that Diablo is referring to the Thing as his assistant? The FF worry that the Thing has been hypnotized. The Thing explains otherwise though. He says, "Diablo promised me that if I serve him faithfully, after a year, he'll give me the rest of the potion. And that means I can marry Alicia, and nobody's gonna spoil it for me, not even you." The Fantastic Four learn of Diablo's alchemist abilities and how great he is working with chemicals. They still remain concerned that the Thing wants to stay here, but they decide to just let it go for now, and Reed, Johnny, and Sue leave. Once they leave Diablo's lair there, Johnny questions Reed, "Why'd you give up so easily, Reed?" Reed answered, "There's a time to fight and a time to think, Johnny. Diablo will wait. I have some important tests to perform now." So with Diablo now free, he uses all of his various chemicals and starts selling them to the world. One of the potions is a so-called immortality serum. Another potion was sold to a Shah for a king's ransom, and the potion transforms the desert into a lush green landscape. Soon Diablo becomes famous and wealthy, and he begins gathering a group of loyal followers, whom he begins to empower with his chemicals. Meanwhile, Reed Richards is over at this Baron Hugo's home, and he is studying some of the chemicals that Diablo has been giving out, and Reed concludes that the chemicals only work for a short period of time, and also they appear to be dangerous. The test tube that Reed is using begins to shatter. Eventually, Diablo's potions start failing all around the world. Even the one that was given to the Thing wears off. And the secrets of these failing chemicals are exposed to the public. And newspapers from every country are calling him a fraud. At this point, the Thing turns on Diablo, but it is too late. Diablo has already recruited himself an army, and he manages to trap the Thing in some sort of unbreakable glass prison cell. The Fantastic Four eventually storm Diablo's fortress and try to stop him, but they too end up getting imprisoned in the same kind of cells. Finally, when Diablo thinks he has won, the Thing manages to break out of the unbreakable prison cell. Because Diablo explains, my unbreakable solution wore off too soon, but I'll still defeat you." So I guess the unbreakable glass prison cell was only unbreakable for a temporary amount of time until Diablo's chemicals he used on those cells would wear off. Diablo attempts to fight and fend off the Thing, but he ends up just slowly retreating further and further back into his fortress, until eventually, in an effort to escape the Thing, Diablo goes back into the crypt that the Thing initially freed him from. And once he does that, the Thing plugs the hole to the crypt entrance and whacks it closed once again. Although the Thing miscalculated his own strength, and when he striked the slab to seal Diablo inside the crypt again, the force of that loosened the castle's aged foundation, and the entire castle then collapsed down to the ground. Eventually, the rest of the Fantastic Four are freed from their glass prisons. They rejoin the Thing, and the four of them all make sure that Diablo is sealed inside. Johnny Storm uses his heat powers to fuse the stones together to really solidify the place up. And afterwards, the Fantastic Four then head home and end their vacation. Alright, so that was Fantastic Four Volume 3. Let me go through my thoughts on the various issues in this volume. So the first issue was about the Hate Monger. And I thought it was just an okay issue. I did like seeing Nick Fury, though, a pre-eye patch Nick Fury. I've never actually read a pre-eye patch Nick Fury story before, so kind of cool to see that. The Hate Mongerer was kind of an interesting villain. What a twist that the Hate Mongerer was Hitler all along. Kind of silly, I think. But, if you're going to bring Hitler into your story, there's a lot more cooler things you can maybe do with him than this. But, I thought it was kind of silly and fun. Now, I do want to point out, I don't want to get all political or whatever with Trump and stuff with the election, but, when I read the Hate Monger issue, I couldn't help but see some parallels with some of the rhetoric you see from Trump with regards to immigrants, okay? So, for example, the Hate Mongerer says, "Those who are not with us are against us. They must be destroyed. We must drive all the foreigners back where they came from. We must show no mercy to those we hate." And the hate monger's supporters say, "The hate monger is right. Kick the foreigners out of our neighborhood." So, there's some parallels there. All I'm saying, there's some parallels there. So kind of interesting that, in the 1960s, still very relevant to today in some ways. All right, next issue was the return of the Mole Man, which I thought was not really a great issue, although I did like having Sue Storm getting a new power set, so that was cool. Then we had Doctor Doom coming back into the story, which was a pretty weak issue, I thought, especially the ending, which I couldn't even comprehend what was happening. So Doom teleported the FF to space or something about cosmic dust, and then Doom jumps out into space. It was a weak issue. Then we had the Infant Terrible, which, actually not bad. This infant alien has all these reality warping powers, and he potentially might destroy the universe. And, it's fun seeing all the anarchy he created. And then the solution where Reed Richards calls his parents to take him home was pretty good, I thought. After that, we had the two-parter with the Hulk versus the Thing and the Avengers as well. And that was great stuff. Lots of action there. This was the real fight between the Thing and the Hulk that we really wanted to see, that was only barely explored in their first interaction way back in issue 12, I believe. So I thought the fight was pretty good, and it was fun seeing the Avengers in the mix. And all in all, a pretty good time, okay? Then we had the Namor issue, which I thought was great. The whole Namor love triangle stuff, I absolutely always find entertaining. I also had the cameo appearance of Doctor Strange in here too, so that was great. And there were some really cool things explored there. And Sue Storm kind of was forced to, in a way, make a decision or calm the situation down. So that was pretty good. Okay, then we had the X-Men meeting the Fantastic Four, and also Puppet Master and the Mad Thinker mixed in there too. And, that was kind of fun seeing Professor X and the Fantastic Four and everyone mixing it up. So that was a good time. Then we had the return of the Red Ghost and his Super Apes, which I thought was a pretty fun issue as well. Seeing their confrontation go down. I really loved that letter from George R.R. Martin criticizing Stan Lee bringing back villains and not explaining how they got out of their previous predicaments. So that was really great. And then we had Diablo, and that issue was pretty bad. Why are the Fantastic Four in Transylvania? Why was the Thing willing to be more handsome and help this villain Diablo out based on these empty promises? And also, there's a lot of inconsistency with the Thing and if he wants to be human or not. Some issues, it's like he really wants to be human again, and then in other issues, he's like, I only want to be human if I can also have the option to switch back into the Thing. And even in the next volume, this is also going to be a problem that's going to keep reoccurring. Anyway, on the whole, I think there was still some good stuff in here. Specifically, the Hulk issues and the Namor ones, those were great. And there was some weaker ones in here too. I'm going to give this volume a 7 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll be back in the future with Volume 4.